Welcome everyone to this video on gender equality and empowerment of women slash girls. The female gender that I'm talking about. The global conversation, the Sustainable Development Goals, or popularly known as SDGs, were determined through a global consultation with a span which spanned approximately 3 years, 193 countries, 8 million people, and thousands of organizations, thousands of business and institutions thereby. This is the most inclusive process that the world has ever seen to determine a gender responsive global policy. The SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, which have captured the due issues, the girls' empowerment, women's empowerment issues, with over 40 gender related targets, representing a new way for addressing some of the greatest challenges facing women as of today. We talk about the gender equality. Universality of this agenda is the key, as gender inequality is a global problem. Recognition of the centrality of human rights to develop, reaffirmations of existing human rights agreements, strong focus on address inequalities and non-discrimination. Gender equality understands as central to achieve to the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Gender equality and women empowerment recognizes a standalone goal number 5, is related to the targets and the number of other goals, which is twin tracked approach. Strategic focus on integration and interlinkages, intersectionality of inequality and discrimination are recognized in the deliberate references to every woman and girls in the key target. Commitment to disaggregate data by sex, by age, by ethnicity, by location, and to track progress and really ensure that no one is left behind. Goal number 5 includes 9 targets, 6 substantiated, and 3 means of implementation. Strong focus on transformation change. What are we looking into it? Goal number 5.1 gives the substances to CEDAW at CEDAW through key indicators in ending all forms of discrimination against women and girls. 5.2 and 5.3 deals with the serious violation of women's and girls' rights, all form of violences, including trafficking, including sexual and other types of exploitation, child, early, and even forced marriages. The FGM, the forced girl marriages, if I may say so. 5.4 introduces for the first time the focus of recognition of the unpaid care work, the household work per se. 5.5 and 5.6 deal with the realizations of the rights to full and effective participation of decision making in the universal access to as the human rights in line with the Cairo and BPFA. Means of implementation targets include women's right to economic resources, access to ICT information communication technology and enabling legislative and political policies environment for gender equality, for women's empowerment. What are we looking out here? The key gender sensitive targets included in other goals. For example, goal number 1 is poverty. Table 1.4, equal rights to economic resources, access to basic services, ownership and control over land and other form of properties, inheritance, natural resources, new technology and microfinance. Goal number 3 is all about health. Target 3.1 reduces global maternity mortality ratio to less than 70 per 100,000 live births. Target 3.7 ensures universal access to health services and integrations of reproductive health into national strategies and programs. Target or goal number 4 is education. Targets approximately 4.5 eliminates gender disparities in education and ensures equal access to all level of education and vocational training. Goal number 8 is growth and decent work. Target 8.5 by 2030 achieve full and productive employment, decent work for every woman and man. Goal number 11. Goal number 11 is cities and human settlement. Target 11.7 by 2030 provides universal access to safe, inclusive, accessible, green, and public spaces, in particular for women and children, older person and person with disabilities. Target number 16. I repeat, target number 16, peaceful and inclusive society, which has been targeted at 16.1, significantly reduce all form of violences and coercions which are related to death everywhere. Recognition that many environmental goals have gender dimension with focus on women and child, land, water, sanitation, energy, and related targets thereby. Let me give you the sustainable development goals and the means of implementation. In addition to the specific target of goal number 5 and the relevant of the MOI targets, which are target point 1, point B, gender sensitive development strategy. Target 4 is an education based facility that child disability and gender sensitive have a safe and a non-violence and an inclusive environment. Target number 16 point B, non-discriminatory laws and policies for sustainability. Target 17.18, disaggregations of data by income, by gender, by age, by race, by ethnicity, by migratory status, by disability, by geographical location and other characteristics relevant to the context of the nation. So 5, gender equality roles. What is new? A standalone. Girls empowerment, women empowerment, over 40 gender related targets of GEWE mainstreamed across diverse goals. Goals are very ambitious, call for the end in some cases, certain things, 12 areas of concern. I repeat, 12 areas of concern. The burden of poverty on women, unequal access to education and training, unequal access to health care and related service, violence against women, the effects of conflict on women, inequality in economic status, economic structures, policies, inequality in sharing the power and decision making at all levels, insufficient mechanism to in the advancement of the women, lack of respect for and protection of the women human right, inequality in women's access to and participation in the media, gender inequalities in the management of natural resources and environment, persistent discrimination against the violation of the rights of the girl child. Now, what are we looking? We are trying to change the world, change the work environment altogether, the global norms and commitment, Beijing platform for actions, conventions of elimination of all form of discrimination against women, CEDAW, conventions on the elimination of all form of discrimination against women, International Covenant of Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, ICESCR, ILO, International Labour Organization Convention concerning the decent work for domestic workers, ILO recommendation for concerning national flows for social protection. Remember, women are predominantly occupying jobs that pay less or and pay no benefit. They earn less than the man, even as this shoulders the enormous and economically essential burden of unpaid work and domestic work thereby. Barriers to women economic empowerment, burden of care, legal barriers, violence against women. Structural barriers are stereotypes. Men only prefer to hire men. Cultures, low access to essential and enablers of the economic opportunities thereby. What are we looking at for the close participation gaps? We are talking about the men, 76.1%, which is there in the working age population. What about women? Less than 49.6%. But this 76.1 and 49% are the workable age people who've been represented. $28 trillion is the boost of economic global GDP by 2010 if women are to play identical role to men in the labor force. See the difference. In Africa, between 1990 and 2013, women labor force participation in sub-Saharan Africa increased from 59 to 64%, just an increase of 5%, resulting in a gender gap of 13%, the lowest in the region, in all region in the world. High rates of labor force participation are not always a sign of women empowerment. Believe me or not, this is very true. In countries with little or no social protection coverage, many people cannot afford to stop working. In sub-Saharan Africa, 41% of the women ages 65, more than 65, are actively in the workforce because they cannot afford a health care. So, share of the unpaid work. Look what is happening. Women carry at least 2.5 times more unpaid work, household work than men. And irrespective of which economy you're coming from, whether it's a developed economy, look what is the unpaid work the woman does it. And look what are the unpaid work the men does it in a developing country. See the hours per day that has been put in, and this has been graphically represented in time spent on paid and unpaid work. for employee personal and 23 development economies. This is what we are looking forward to it. In Africa, women in Africa spend 4 times more time than men on unpaid work. That is caring for children, dependent, old people, water, cooking, cleaning. Women's time spent in unpaid care and domestic work is valued approximately at 35% of the GDP. In Tanzania, it's valued 63% of the GDP. What should we achieve for or ascribe to? Decent work for every woman. Women in informal employment as a percentage of total employment: South Asia 95%, Sub-Saharan 89%, Latin America 59%. What are the informal workers, which include street vendors, petty goods, service trader, subsistence farmer or farm labor, contract laborer, seasonal worker, domestic workers, industrial workers? Older women are less likely to have a pension in today's world rather than on the older men are consist people above retirement age without a regular person. Look, 35, that means one of every three men are without pension. In cases of women, it is two of every three women are without pension. So in Africa, sub-Saharan, more than 89% of the women and 83% of the men are without employment, are in pensionable employment. Without pensionable employment, African women hold 66% of all jobs in the non-agricultural informal sector. Agriculture continues to be the most important source of employment for women. Almost all agricultural employment is informal. Shouldn't we strive for equal pay for all women, equal pay for all men? Or should I say there should not be any discriminations of pay for men and women, irrespective of the gender? Globally, women only make 77% cents for every dollar earned by men. That's whooping. For equal work of man, the gap is larger for women with children, whether it's sub-Saharan or Southeast Asian. With children, without children it's 4%, but with children it's 31%. See the gap that increases. Without children it's 14% in South Asia, but with children it's approximately 35%. Women make 70 cents for each dollar spent altogether. That that has been done by the men. If men earns $1, the women earns 70 cents for the same work. That wide gap in sub-Saharan is approximately 30%. So women in global workforce, what are they? 61.5% are in the service sector, 13.1% are 30.5% are in the industry, and rest are in the agriculture, if I may say so. So this is what needs to be understood. Women in leadership, 23% are only there in the parliament representing the general public, and the CEO's fortune work is less than 4%. In Africa, most of the formal jobs for women in Africa are public servant, teachers, nurses, and usually underpaid jobs. Even in jobs like teaching, the higher the level of education, the lower the proportion of female teachers. This indicates that despite having an improved education level, it is not translating into decreasing the labor segregation. Only 7 to 30% of all private firms have female manager. So let us strive to stop violence against women. 114 countries have provision in place covering sexual harassment in employment. 55% of women in European unions have experienced sexual harassment at least once since the age of 15. Of this, 32% experience is in the place of the work. What has it been done? Africa. By 2014, some African countries such as Angola, Benin, Conte, Malawi, Mauritius, Namibia, Niger, Togo, Tanzania, Zimbabwe passed laws stipulating equal pay for work for equal amount of jobs, laws that prevent discrimination based on sex in employment, and prohibition of sexual harassment in workplace. Employment laws as such, only 63% has equality laws and benefit, and only 28% of the employed women worldwide enjoy paid maternity leave. 28, less than one third. 63 countries comply with the International Labour Organization of minimum maternity leave standards, stipulating the mother should be granted at least around 14 weeks of paid maternity. In Africa, 22 sub-Saharan African meet or perhaps even exceed this requirement. 2013, the highest minimum compliance with paid maternity leave was approximately 17 weeks. In 2013, 25 countries offered paternity leave, but often only for few days, and that too unpaid. Burundi offers the most leaves with a minimum of 45 days in compliance with the paternity leave, perhaps. Now, let's sum it up as far as organizing the women rights are concerned. What are we looking at? The nature of women work often keep them outside the reach of the labor, organizing the union's protection. Women's ability to organize in a workplace and communities are indispensable for the upholding labor rights. In trade unions, women members have driven achievements in organizations and collective bargaining, including among high vulnerable groups such as domestic workers. Yet many barriers remain in the right to organize, including the repressive law. Women working part-time or isolated in homes have fewer opportunities to learn, form, or join protective networks, self-help groups, or organize themselves in such as union. So these are the reason why women should be protected and given shelter by the laws of the land. With these words, I come to an end of this video. Thank you for watching the same.